Hello, I am back again and I have some pretty exciting news to share with you. I am going to be making a lot of videos on Particl on a consistent basis from here on out. I am very excited to do it. I'm also going to be making videos on other topics, but I think Particl will comprise a significant portion of the videos that I make. I am going to be doing critical interviews with people, something that I had promised in the past, and I am going to be taking you along with me as I banish my ignorance on cryptocurrency and cryptography and learn a lot. Particl interests me because, first of all, cryptocurrency and decentralization and the use of the blockchain takes back our use of technology. That is, as human beings, we make these things with our minds that makes our lives more easy and more efficient. But taking it away from centralization, so in few people's hands, and of course, these people, these corporations provided these tools to us for our benefit, and I am grateful for that personally. But at the same time, they have their own ideas about the way the world should work, and when certain things are in their power, they can use it how they want to influence everybody else. That could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. And I think the process of decentralization helps keep that away from people who might want to use it for nefarious purposes. Particl specifically is about privacy and focusing on one of the many things that I think cryptocurrency is going to help us solve, the issue of the centralization of power as it surrounds us using the things in our daily lives, the technology that we use. But this is one path of me entering into this world, and I'm really excited to start here. I really am. I'm not lying about that. To kick off this video series, I'm going to talk about privacy. And I'm going to start with something super small. It's going to seem like an insignificant event, but it really blew my mind and made me realize what Particl had to offer and made me realize that I should do some more research. So somebody sent me some coins, some Particl, somebody that I know, and they didn't just send me the coins, they took it upon themselves to keep checking up on them and seeing if I had spent them or had done something with them, and they kept telling me about it. Eventually, I got really annoyed and I was like, will this person leave me alone and can I get them off of my back? At the time, I hadn't really looked into the interface and the wallet and the GUI and really using the desktop wallet apart from when I had downloaded it and played around with it a bit. But then I went there and I realized that I could send my coins from the public wallet, which is where they were, to the blind wallet. And then I did that and I realized, oh my God, finally, I just felt this sense of relief and was glad that I got this person off of my back. At that point, I was like, yay! And then thought that maybe I should do some more research into privacy and what Particl was doing. That led me down the rabbit hole of what cryptocurrency was, and Bitcoin specifically, and how it was thought to be anonymous at first, but it really wasn't. So then people tried to come up with solutions to make it more anonymous. What Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies were doing was they were making it so that you could see the entire transaction history of a certain account, and that was in efforts to make it more secure. So they were creating a publicly distributed ledger that different places could check the accuracy of it. But in doing that, they had left information like the date, the amount of the transaction, the time. You could go and check up on the payment history. All of that information was publicly available. And even though the address, the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency address wasn't tied to a specific person, you could deduce that information. So things happened like the Silk Road where people thought that it was anonymous, but now that's termed pseudo-anonymous because it's not really anonymous, even though it's kind of anonymous. So in order to deal with this, there were two kinds of solutions that were created. One was to have a privacy solution that was on top of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin protocol, how it already worked. And then there were others that came from the CryptoNote white paper, which was just a suggestion of how to implement more security using ring signatures. Now, Particl uses ring confidential transactions, which uses a combination of ring signatures and confidential transactions. Now, the ring signatures, from what I understand, what they do is when somebody sends you money, the receiver, or when somebody sends me money, I know who sent me the money, but nobody else outside of the transaction can see. And that's what people want. They want it to be like with regular cash money, where you know the two people know who they're transacting with, but people outside don't really know. So they have to remove all of that information from the actual money that is being spent in that moment. So you can't go back and see the whole transaction history and tell where it came from, back to where it was mined even. You don't need to know all of that information. So from the outside, you can't tell exactly who sent the message, but it could be one of a number of people who belong to a group. And that provides a level of anonymity that Bitcoin, as it stood at that time, did not do and could not do. So this second method of dealing with the lack of true anonymity with Bitcoin led to CT, confidential transactions, and ring CT, which is what Particl uses. CT only hides the amount of money being sent, while ring CT also hides who the actual sender is or obscures it. So you could make a guess as to who it was, but you can't know for sure. Particl, as it turns out, has 3 different levels of privacy, and each one uses just no extra addition on top of the Bitcoin protocol, and then one adds CT, and then another adds ring CT. I'm actually just going to go and read off of Particl's website because I think they do a really good job of explaining what their product is, and I'm going to go and do that right now. The Particl coin can be sent as 3 different privacy states, each with their own degree of privacy and cost. As the highest privacy state requires the most transaction fee, it may not always be the best type of transaction depending on the situation, especially one where privacy is not predominantly required by the user. I also found out, actually, let me pause here, that because Particl makes it optional what privacy state you want to be sending and sending your money in, that makes it more likely that Particl, the blockchain, will be able to scale well because, as it said, some transactions cost more and those transactions are more heavy. They require more data to be written because there's more cryptography going on to make it more private. And so that slows down the network. And that could be said to be an advantage over other coins, other privacy coins, where that's the default. That might be a matter of opinion, but that makes it more likely that when there's a very large volume of transactions occurring, because not all of them will automatically require the most cryptography and the most work being done to record that information in the blockchain, it will make it more likely that it will scale well. So that's just something that I discovered. You can take that or leave it. So back to what I was reading. The first privacy state is public. This type of transaction is pseudo-anonymous, just like Bitcoin. Public transactions are publicly auditable on any Particl block explorer and offer the least amount of privacy. They are the cheapest transactions to execute and is the default privacy setting. Blind. This is the one I fortunately discovered. This type of transaction uses the confidential transaction, CT in brackets, privacy protocol developed by Bitcoin core developer Gregory Maxwell to keep the transferring amounts visible only to the transaction participants and those they designate, while still guaranteeing the transaction's cryptographic integrity. This is a mid-level privacy option and is more expensive than public transactions, but cheaper than that's their third kind, anonymous transactions. Mathematical and cryptographic details related to the CT privacy protocol are available on Maxwell's original investigation into the protocol. They have a link here so you can find out more information. Particl is the first coin in history to deploy this technology on a Bitcoin core codebase as well as on top of SegWit, which I think stands for segregated witness. SegWit helps with scalability and cheaper transaction fees. Anon, the third optional privacy state that you can choose in Particl. This type of transaction uses the ring CT privacy protocol developed by Shen Noether to hide both transferred amounts and participants' blockchain identity by combining CryptoNotes' ring signatures and Maxwell's CT protocols. It is the one of the highest level of trustless privacy protocol the crypto industry has to offer and was made famous by Monero. It is also the most expensive privacy setting to use. Mathematical and cryptographic details related to the Ring CT privacy protocol are available on Shen Noether's Ring CT white paper. Particl is the first coin in history to deploy this technology on a Bitcoin core codebase as well as on top of SegWit. Lots of firsts for Particl. So those are the 3 kinds. I also want to point out that I did read on Particl's website that the anon state was being researched in terms of its actual functionality within the wallet and the marketplace by researchers at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Let me double check that. Yes, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Since we're talking about privacy, let's also talk about the other privacy features that Particl has to offer, including its secure messaging service. And also, I believe that applications are able to be built within Particl that have privacy as their main feature. So Particl is not just its own thing, but then other applications can also be built where it has all the privacy features that Particl already offers. Secure messaging, SMSG, Particl's very own DSN, that means data storage network, is a decentralized peer-to-peer message mixnet where all nodes store a copy of everyone's end-to-end encrypted messages and data for a duration of 48 hours, which can be increased for a fee. It is a default and most private DSN available for use on the platform. The reference implementation is developed in C++ and incorporated into the Particl daemon, that's what runs in the background, allowing it to operate over the same peer-to-peer network as the Particl blockchain. All nodes continuously attempt to decrypt every incoming message, but can only succeed if the node is able to recalculate the HMAC hash accompanying said message. That's a way of authenticating the message. I had to read that up and don't fully understand. If the hash check fails, then it cannot be decrypted by the node, which means the message was either fraudulent, tampered with, or meant for another node. SMSG messages and data are stripped from almost any metadata. Therefore, it is impossible for anyone to extract information such as IP addresses, sender, or receiver. The only metadata accompanying data on SMSG are the hash, the encryption payload, and the temporary public key. IP anonymization. Just like any cryptocurrency which builds on the Bitcoin codebase, the Particl platform allows its users to easily route their connection through the Tor network in order to hide their true IP address from the rest of the network. Tor is a decentralized node network for enabling anonymous communication. It directs internet traffic through a free, worldwide, and volunteer overlay network consisting of more than 7,000 relays to conceal users' location and usage from anyone conducting network surveillance or traffic analysis. Using Tor makes it much more difficult for a third party to trace a user's real IP address across the Particl network. Onion routing is implemented by encryption in the application layer of a communication protocol stack, nested like the layers of an onion. Tor encrypts the data, including the next node destination IP address, multiple times and sends it through a virtual circuit comprising successive random selection Tor relays. Each relay decrypts a layer of encryption to reveal the next relay in the circuit to pass the remaining encrypted data on it. The final relay decrypts the innermost layer of encryption and sends the original data to its destination without revealing or knowing the source IP address. Because the routing of the communication is partly concealed at every hop in the Tor circuit, this method eliminates any single point at which the communicating pairs can be determined through network surveillance that relies upon knowing its source and destination. So all of that was just them explaining why their SMSG messaging service is private and the messages themselves, and that it cannot be traced back to the user through their IP address. Okay, now I'm finished talking about the main privacy features, and all of this talk about privacy made me start thinking about why privacy is so important. And I kind of touched on that a bit at the very beginning of this video. And privacy is a fundamental human right. It is increasingly being encroached upon by many institutions in power. That includes corporations and it includes governments. It's not limited to certain groups of people. This is something that happens when there's a lot of power concentrated, because human beings, the capabilities that we have within us, I don't want to really get too philosophical about this, but it is philosophical. All of that exists within different people. I don't think it's concentrated to one group. That's my personal opinion. But when there is power, then people are able to abuse that, and that can come, like I said, in the form of corporations or in the form of government. And we are relying a lot on technology these days, which I think is a great thing. We're basically using tools and using the power of our brains to make tools and then use them to our benefits and make everything a lot more efficient. There are always downsides to anything. I don't think that this is a bad thing. However, with that comes the fact that we're relying on these tools that belong to people who provided it to us, which I personally am grateful that this was provided to us or to me. But that results in them being able to ignore things that weren't really be able to ignore it in the past. For example, I could be taking a shower out in the woods, somewhere with green all around me, and I couldn't quite be so sure that I am alone. And the importance of being alone is expression. It ties into freedom of expression. I can vote with my dollars without someone looking at me and breathing down my neck and knowing exactly what I'm doing. This also ties into issues such as blackmail, where maybe somebody in power, somebody else has some data on them that they can use over them. So and threaten to release the information publicly. And talking about using over them and data, that is why you have to ask the question, why does somebody need to know exactly what you are up to all the time? Why? I think the only reason why somebody needs to know that is that they can have power over you to say, I know what you're up to, and you have to be afraid that I'm going to do something with it. Now, we can talk about things like illicit activities, something morally reprehensible, such as trafficking and not wanting people to buy certain goods and services. But there's a way for things to be private, which I think Particl does. While because the two people transacting do know who they are, or they can glean that because the information is available to both of them in terms of the address of the person sending and the address of the person receiving, you can put a dent in things that really shouldn't be happening because of that transparency between those two people. However, make it so that not just anybody can see what you're up to. So that's me saying there is a way for good law enforcement to do its job. I think that's there, and I want to really point that out here. But it's not just about those things, it's also about a fundamental human need for being able to be oneself without constantly being watched. Okay, I think I really went into detail here, and I'm going to summarize. The first thing is that one of Particl's basic privacy features really saved me from a dire situation. I am being dramatic. The other is that privacy coins were invented in order to solve the issue of Bitcoin not being truly anonymous, or cryptocurrency technology at that time, the most popular one being Bitcoin not being truly anonymous, even though that was a main reason for these cryptocurrencies to be started in the first place. And then I also talked about Particl's main privacy features, the fact that there are 3 states of privacy: public, private, and anon, with different levels of technology. The first just being pseudo-anonymous, what Bitcoin already is, the addresses being not directly linked to somebody, though they can be figured out. The second being private, where the amount being sent is only known to the 2 participants. And the third being anon, or anonymous, where it uses ring confidential transactions. So it's not just the amounts, but also who the sender and the receiver is. You can't figure it out. And that's the most secure and private version. And then there is their secure messaging service that hides your IP. And also the fact that any applications built within Particl also have all of its built-in privacy features available to it. Then I also went into the philosophical reasons about why privacy is important, which is just it's a fundamental human right, and you can kind of go off into different directions talking about that or thinking about that if you would like. Last but not least, I just want to reiterate that I am really excited to be making these videos. Not all of them will be about Particl, but a pretty significant portion of them will be. And I know there's already a community from even when Particl had another name. I'm really excited to join it. I'm excited to talk to people, maybe ask some hard questions, and to educate myself and learn and take you with me. Thank you for watching my video. I'm going to be making lots more. You can also give some suggestions if you would like in the comments. I will be talking to you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.